All right, a very good afternoon, guys. Welcome to this Design Quotient Industry E-Meet. I'm Umesh Kumar, Founder Director of Design Quotient Labs, and today we have Mr. Piyush Verma,
All right, a
our
very good afternoon,
special
guys.
host.
Welcome to this Design Quotient Industry E-Meet.
All right,
I'm Umesh Kumar, Founder Director of Design Quotient Labs, and today we have Mr. Piyush Verma. All right, a very good afternoon, guys. Welcome to this Design Quotient
noise
Industry
coming from.
E-Meet.
Just a minute.
I'm Umesh Kumar, Founder Director of Design Quotient.
All right. So the technical glitches, I'm really sorry for that. But however, yeah. So right. So I would like to start off with saying the purpose of this design quotient industry e-meet. So why we are doing this is because a lot of design aspirants and their parents are curious to know the future of their child if they go into this architecture, fashion, or design profession, right? So to give an opportunity for the design aspirants and their parents to interact with uh, a successful design professional, we have created this event. And today we are having the 20th event, right? So we had 19 design professionals, architecture, fashion, and design professionals who are doing really well, contributing really well in this industry, have been invited, and they have shared their journey. And you can catch up with all those videos by subscribing to our YouTube channel, right? So these are very, very interesting talks that we'll be having with the invited design professional. They will be sharing insights about their journey, where they have begun and where they are now, where they are heading. And in the process, they'll also be showing their interesting work that they have done. All right. So please feel free to ask all kinds of doubts. Please don't refrain from thinking, okay, my doubt is too silly or something like that. Especially as designers, we never think anything as too silly. Right? So for us, every small thing matters because we are naturally what you call curious beings, and we would definitely would like to answer all your questions, no matter how insignificant that you think they are. So please feel free to ask. So let me introduce Mr. Piyush Verma. So he's the founder of manushlabs.org, an organization that supports Indian impact innovators and entrepreneurs from resource constrained backgrounds. All right. So Piyush is an architect, an industrial designer, an entrepreneur, and a researcher. He was awarded a full ride scholarship for pursuing a Master's of Science degree at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He was also a recipient of the prestigious Tata Fellowship at MIT and was a graduate research fellow at the Tata Centre for Technology and Design from 2018 and 20. So, very interesting thing to know is he has done his architecture from School of Planning and Architecture, Bhopal, and then he did his industrial design from IIT Delhi. So that is where I know him, right? So that is how we have a connection, right? And then he has done his master's from the MIT US. So very interesting to know that he has done all his education from the prestigious institutes, right? So that's a big achievement by itself, right? So, and not only that, he has worked with architect B.V. Doshi in Ahmedabad and at IBM Design Studios R&D Center in Germany, right? So Piyush comes with a lot of very interesting allied educational background and a lot of interesting experiences in the field of architecture, design, research, and entrepreneurship. And I'm very happy to have Piyush here and very eager to hear his journey. And thanks everybody for making your Sunday evening, sacrificing your Sunday evening or sacrificing Sunday morning as by Piyush Verma. It is 3 o'clock in the morning, I believe. So I have to really convince him asking him that it's very important that he has to dedicate his time because he has very good experiences and he can share a lot of his learnings which are very useful for all of us, right? So thank you, Piyush, so much for obliging my request and being here. So all over to you, Piyush.
Thank you so much, Umesh. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, hello, everyone. I'm Piyush. First of all, I would like to thank Umesh for inviting me here today. I was asked to talk about my journey to young design aspirants. So, I thought at this point in your lives, what could be the most important thing that I could make you learn in an hour long session? I thought of that, of course, I can't teach you design or architecture in this small session. So I thought at this point in your lives, the one most important thing for you to know would be the world of opportunities that the field of architecture and design opens for you. As for me, I joined architecture school exactly 10 years ago as an undergrad. And in these 10 years, I've straddled the fields of architecture, design, urbanism, and social entrepreneurship. And I can't explain enough how much I've enjoyed being in this field and how beautiful this journey has been. And I think one of the most important lessons that I've learned from my journey in architecture and design in the last 10 years is to be open to new experiences, new cultures, and new possibilities. And when I was your age, just finishing school and thinking of going to college, I did not have any idea about what designers or architects do and what kind of problems they solve and what all opportunities are there in these fields. So today, I'm going to walk you through some of my selected projects and experiences that have had a strong impact on me. I'm going to talk about my experiences while quickly going through them, but I won't go into the technicalities of the projects. My idea is to make you understand what all opportunities there are in the field of architecture and design through my journey, and I hope you'll enjoy today's presentation. So, Umesh, I will share my screen now.
Yeah, please go
Um,
ahead.
yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'll kind of go through some of my projects and experiences one by one, and I won't go into much detail, but we can cover details in the question and answer session. So I would like to start with this slide, which shows uh, some of these areas where I've been in the last 5 years because of the opportunities that architecture and design field has given me. I was able to travel a lot and kind of work in diverse cultures and diverse set of people. So I find myself very fortunate to be in this field. And these are the three areas where I've worked in the last 5 years after finishing my undergrad: architecture, design, and entrepreneurship. And there's one thing common between all these three areas is the social element. So when I was in architecture, I enjoyed social architecture. When I was in design, I enjoyed social design. And right now I'm doing social entrepreneurship. And it's again related to society and how I can use my design and architecture skills in this area. So back in 2013, when I was a third year architecture undergrad, I did this internship in Himachal Pradesh. It was the first professional work that I did in my life. It was basically earth architecture in which we built houses with mud and bamboo. And I enjoyed this project a lot, which kind of gave me a sense of the sustainable and social aspects of architecture. And then I was fortunate to work with architect B.V. Doshi in 2014 in Ahmedabad while I was in my final year of architecture. And working with him left an indelible mark in my thought process, especially with regard to contemporary architecture and social architecture and the implications of architecture in the lives of people. And then during the same work, with Doshi, I was also involved in an international studio in which there were students from TU Delft and CEPT University in Ahmedabad, and we worked together for around 2.5 months on a project. So working with people from different parts of the world was again a very eye-opening opportunity for me. And we worked in a slum rehabilitation project in Ahmedabad. Then the next project was my architecture thesis, which was around participatory design and humanitarian architecture. So in this project, I worked with the village in Uttarkashi in Uttarakhand, where I was kind of trying to understand what are the problems that the people have faced after the floods of 2013, and how I can help them kind of rehabilitate after the disaster had happened. So this was a very this project was very close to my heart, and I actually took it ahead in my master's degree in IIT Delhi. And this is the project that I did in IIT. This was my first project, which was basically a continuation of my undergrad thesis. In this, I was trying to make a persuasive kind of a product which engages people in their traditional architecture and kind of influences them to value their traditional architecture and traditional art. So this is my way of merging uh, architecture as well as UX design, and learning kind of implementing my learning from both aspects in one project. And then the next project was again around social design in IIT Delhi, where I worked with the homeless family in Delhi, and I was trying to create a homeless shelter for them. And this project was again a participatory project in which I worked with the people living in these areas, especially in Munirka. And after this whole participatory session, I was able to figure out a few problem areas, and I tried to solve those problem areas during the rest of the project. And then I continued the same project. I went to China for an internship in summer, and I was trying to see how I can implement technology in my current learning of the homelessness in India. So I created this project, which is kind of a homeless shelter, but it's designed in such a way that it transforms in the night. So imagine that you are a middle class or an upper middle class family living in a kind of a two-story house, and in the night your drawing room converts into a dormitory for the homeless people. So this was the project that I did in China, and in fact after coming back to IIT, I continued it. And then the next project was in my last semester of IIT, which was in University of Sydney. I was trying to combine my knowledge of architecture and data analysis, and trying to figure out how we can, make use of the existing census data and figure out the patterns of decline in vernacular houses in India. So again, I use my knowledge of architecture into another area, which is data analysis and technology. Then the next project was again in University of Sydney, which was data visualization. And in this, of course, data visualization needs knowledge of graphic design and product design and design sensibilities. So this is again connected to what I studied in IIT. And the next project, after coming back from Sydney, I worked for a few months in Dharavi in Mumbai. I was doing ethnographic studies with the people of Bareilly compound in Dharavi, where we were constructing a new toilet for the people living in the neighborhood. And my role was to understand the problems and do ethnographic research around the problems faced by these people. And in this, basically, I'm trying to, the idea is to kind of combine the knowledge of architecture and design and sociology, and figure out the problems that people face. So this is what usually qualitative design researchers do. And then after finishing this, I went to IBM in Germany, and where I was a UX researcher. This project was again a technology-oriented project. I couldn't share the details, but this was a more typical UX design and research project that I did. So after finishing my stint at IBM, I went to MIT, And this picture kind of summarizes how one feels in MIT. So this is kind of a water hose, and at MIT there are so many opportunities and so much knowledge that you feel like you're drinking from a water hose, and it's almost impossible to take all this that knowledge inside. So you have to be selective around what you learn and what your interests are right in the beginning. And as a Tata Fellow at MIT, my project was working with the World Bank and Government of Maharashtra. So it was a water planning project in which we created reports for the government. So we created a mobile app and we collected data from all the villages in Maharashtra through this app. We analyze that data, clean that data, and then we produce maps like this. And then these maps, and then the report of these maps was submitted to the government, like this report, and the government kind of designed their policies around these ideas. So this was my Tata Fellowship project for 2 years that I did in MIT, and this is one of the pictures from the Pune Zilla Parishad in Maharashtra. And then, of course, at MIT, I did several other projects related to interaction design, product design, architecture. And this picture is from my thesis, master's thesis at MIT, which is kind of figuring out how we can use the ample amount of rain in the Western Ghats of India, where there still is a lot of water scarcity. So that was my master's thesis project. And then this project was basically conceptualizing an idea where there's a device which you can wear in your hand, and basically sense another person's smile who is sitting in front of you by wearing this device. And then a few architecture projects I did. And then at MIT, I was also parallelly involved in a few entrepreneurship projects. One of them was this MIT India initiative. Um, so I would like to briefly explain you the problem that I faced when I was in IIT and when I went to MIT. So in IIT, I realized at that time there were only a few resources for entrepreneurs. Students who have entrepreneurial kind of interests. And when I came to MIT, I realized that there are so many opportunities that even if a person who is not entrepreneurial, he becomes entrepreneurial because of the abundance of resources. And if you actually scale it up to India level, we are 3 times the population of US, and still we are far behind the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So we thought, what can we do about it? And then the next problem is right now, I think you all are aware of this problem that most of the entrepreneurial solutions are catering to a few urban hotspots in India. And what about the rest of the country? So this is another problem. And then the other problem is that the capital flow is happening in a few selected sectors, and the development areas like education, healthcare, poverty, these areas are not very much supported by investment organizations. So we thought, what can we do about these problems? So we did this initiative back in January this year. So it was MIT's largest student-run workshop plus conference in India, where we brought together all these students and graduate students and postdocs from MIT and Harvard to India. And then there were 300 participants from all across India who kind of worked with us in this 1 week session. And then these were some of the impact areas that we worked on: healthcare, fintech, urban livability, food and agriculture, education, clean energy. And then there were also leaders from several organizations like Google, Facebook, who worked with us throughout the week. And finally, there was a demo networking day in which we invited participants from all across India, and then institutions who could support their projects. We had a strong support from different organizations in India. So the core idea was to basically bring together 3 different stakeholders. One was the domain experts from MIT and Harvard. Second was the passionate problem solvers from different corners of India who have, kind of very exciting ideas, but they rarely get guidance, and they don't have enough resources to actually implement those ideas. And then the third part was the industry leaders who are actually doing groundbreaking work. So we brought them together for a week in Bombay, and we got a lot of impactful ideas on board. But there was something missing even after this workshop, which was the scalability and sustainability of these solutions. So we thought, okay, what can we do next to actually make sure that these solutions reach out to the real people. So we came up with the concept of Manush Labs. And our focus is to create self-sustainable solutions for 1 billion people, uh, including tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So we are emphasizing on tier 2 and tier 3 cities here. And our goal is to identify and nourish impact entrepreneurs from all across India in the next 5 years. And our objective outcome is to become strategic partners for our supporters like incubation centers, governments, impact investors, and corporations who can. So entrepreneurs and innovators come to us. We train them, we mentor them, we guide them, and then they go to the our partners who actually scale their ideas and bring them to reality. And the sectors that we are working on are again healthcare, food, agri, education, urban livability, financial inclusion, energy. And these are some of the research insights or gaps that we have found after our research in this area. One is that the innovators don't have enough guidance with respect to their technical problems, or especially related to their products or process. And then the second gap is lack of willingness and openness to collaborate, which comes from deep causes like insecurity and lack of trust in the Indian innovation ecosystem. Then the third problem or gap that we've identified is the lack of is the language barrier or lack of confidence that the people from tier 2 and tier 3 cities have. So they are not very confident around speaking in public, which we have experienced and which we have got to know after several interviews. And then some of the problems like creative thinking is not supported in innovation and entrepreneurship. This is again another gap that we've identified. And then some other problems like disconnect between small towns and cities in terms of innovation and lack of infrastructure. And one of the most important issues is recognizing the biases that female innovators and entrepreneurs face in India, which is again because of deep sociocultural aspects. So these are some of the gaps that we have figured out, and we are trying to solve these issues with the help of our upcoming project Manush Labs, which means human in Hindi. And our aim is to democratize access to mentoring, funding, and network building for these innovators in India. And this is a team, mostly people from MIT right now, and we are constantly trying to increase our support team in India as well. And then we have a LinkedIn page. You can follow us and get to know more about us there. And thank you. So these are some of the pictures that of the places I've been to in the last 5 years of my journey in architecture and design. So thank you.
Right, Piyush, that is quite interesting. And I personally have a lot of questions. All right.
Okay.
So, my first question to you is, um, how did you choose architecture as one of the
Mhm.
careers after your 12th? So, what made you choose architecture?
So it's a very good question, Umesh. I was actually not aware of the architecture field when I was in 12th standard, as I said. I was aware of, like programs like B.Tech or BSc and some of these common programs. But coming from a small town in India, there was not a lot of exposure around these upcoming, fields like architecture and design. So accidentally, I filled the AIEEE architecture form along with the BTech form at that time.
Okay.
And luckily, I got a very good rank and I got into one of the premier institutions. But as soon as I joined architecture school and the program started, I realized that this is something that resonates very well with me, and this is what I always wanted to do, because it allows you to exercise your creativity and gives you a lot of opportunities to work with kind of creative people and innovate things around the problems that you see around you. So yeah, that was
Right.
the kind of the journey.
Right, right. So you had got good support from your parents and family that you are going to architecture, a profession not very well known by a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. My parents, yeah, always supported me in this idea.
Okay, great, great. So what made you go for a design program when, as an architect, you are you're a professional, you can full-fledgedly design building spaces and all that. So what made you choose design at a PG level?
Um, so I always knew that after doing 5 years in architecture, I knew that my inclination is towards a creative profession, and I'm a creative person. So I cannot kind of just um, um, uh, do something which doesn't involve creativity. So I gave the seed exam, which is kind of the entrance exam for all the masters in design courses in India. And I did not prepare for it a lot, but I did read about it, and I kind of got some information around it, and I gave the exam, and I luckily got a good rank. And then I chose IIT Delhi because Delhi is the is a hub for innovation. There are so many opportunities because it's a big city. So that was the reason I chose IIT Delhi for my master's degree.
Okay. And while doing your master's, so you had a break between, I mean, after you finished architecture and gotten into IIT, or um, you directly went into a master's program?
I directly went. I did not work in between.
All right. So the work
But
with,
in my architecture program, there was a requirement of working with a professional for 6 months.
yes,
That's when I worked with BV Doshi.
B. Doshi. All right.
Yeah.
So how was that experience working with uh, a professional like an architect like B. Doshi? How was that experience?
Mhm. It was, to be honest, it was life changing
Mhm.
because before I went there, I looked at architecture from a very different perspective. I thought it's just about building houses or making buildings where people live. But after going to Ahmedabad and working with Doshi, I actually understood the soul of architecture, that it's not just about making houses, it's actually about um, giving uh, uh, an opportunity for people where they can experiment with spaces, where they can lead a better life
Mhm.
with the help of the architecture. And also I got this perspective that architecture can actually serve people, the social aspect of architecture, which is very very famous, which is very I mean, Doshi is very well known for this kind of architecture. He has designed several social housings. One is in Ahmedabad, the Aranya housing, which is very well known, which also got the Aga Khan award.
Mhm.
So yeah, working with him was very eye opening. And uh, um, uh, and not just for me. In fact, all the people who came to work there in Ahmedabad with Doshi, they whenever they left, they were kind of their perspective towards architecture was changed.
Mhm.
This is the kind of magic that is there in the learnings and the teachings of Doshi. So I
Right.
would actually recommend all the participants today to read a few things about him if you are planning to go into architecture. His work will motivate you a lot um, in kind of understanding social architecture and social design.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great tip. And the internship was for 6 months or for 1 year, Piyush?
It was for 6 months.
6 months. And what is the kind of uh, work you have done in that studio?
So I worked on a couple of projects. One was so at that time Doshi's so we were planning Doshi's retrospective exhibition in Delhi, and I was very lucky to actually work with Doshi directly in that project,
Mm.
to understand all his projects. So we were making these small models for all his projects, which would be exhibited in Delhi in the NGMA museum. So in that part, I was kind of involved with him, and I would listen to his ideas while he was doing those projects. So yeah, I worked very closely with him at that time, and also I was involved in the International Habitat Design Studio while doing my internship. So at that time, as I said, it was an amazing studio in which there were people from TU Delft and SEPT in Ahmedabad, and we
Mhm.
worked for around 2.5 months on that project. And Doshi was our primary instructor. So he would give
Interesting.
us lectures every morning, and then we would work on them. And then there was a review session every week in which Doshi and Professor Chaya from CEPT,
Hmm.
he would review our projects. So that was again a very good learning experience.
Right. So, when you have gone to IIT for pursuing your master's, you have showcased that you have worked with some foreign universities for a couple of projects. So, how did you land those projects, and what you have to do to get those projects?
Um, so when I was in IIT in the second semester, I thought that I wanted to explore the intersection of architecture and design and technology, because I was coming from an architecture background into a product design course, and I was very much interested to explore how technology can enhance my ideas. So I was looking for universities around the world who are working in this particular area, intersection of design, architecture, and technology. So I
Hmm.
found this university in China, Tsinghua University, which is a very well-known university in China. So I reached out to the professor. I sent him my work, and luckily his work and his previous experience matched with my previous work. So
Hmm.
he was happy to invite me for that internship. And similarly, in the University of Sydney, the professor that I worked with, she was a planner. She was also an SPA graduate, and so and she studied in IT after that. So we had very similar background. So our work kind of again resonated very well. And then she was happy to invite me for the project. But I would say that it's not very easy to get
Hmm.
kind of university internships while you are in IITs, because there are so many people who are applying for these internships. So it's very competitive. So one
Right.
thing you have to make sure is that whatever professor or whatever research lab you apply to, your work very well matches with their work. And if your work doesn't match their work, then you have to do some projects or do some internships to match your work with them. And then once you are sure that you have an experience very much similar to what those research labs or professors are wanting, then you should apply. Otherwise it's kind of just applying randomly, and it doesn't make sense for people outside India.
Right. Right. So, as a student, while working on your projects, you got this opportunity and you have traveled. So, was this a paid internship or paid project? How did you manage your travel and all that? Travel, stay in a different country.
So when I went to China, it was a 3 month long project. So initially, the professor gave me travel funding,
Hmm.
and he had promised me a basic stipend. And then I knew that that would not be sufficient for me to cover my living expenses in Beijing. But I still went there with some of my savings. And after a week, he saw that I'm very dedicated in my project, so he offered me accommodation as well. So I think here the learning element is that if you are really interested to work with the professor, you might have to take the risk of going there with your savings, or you have to manage it. But once you are there, most of the time professors are very much happy to cover your expenses. So you have to take your chances.
Right. Okay. So, once you have finished the Masters of Design, uh, were there any campus placements, campus interviews that happened? Did you apply for any of those?
Yeah, I did apply, but I was actually not interested because I was simultaneously applying for, programs like MIT, and I knew that I'm going to University of Sydney, and at that point I thought that I might pursue a PhD in University of Sydney. And actually, when I was there, I did think about that, but then I got this, offer from IBM. So I decided to work for some time before going to MIT. So that was the case.
All right. Okay. Okay. So, I would like to know about the friendships that you have built while you are doing your architecture or masters of design. So, what are your friends doing now? Your colleagues, your peers, what are they doing? So, can you throw some light on that?
Sure. So my architecture colleagues, most of them are enjoying their work in architecture, and they are
Mm.
practicing in some of the very good firms in India, um, and some of them have kind of just like me, they've kind of went into some other sectors like um, product design and interaction design. Some of them have gone into filmmaking, animation. So yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to see how people after finishing their architecture courses go into similar or related professions, because as I said, architecture is a creative profession, and if you're a creative person, then it's just about solving a problem. It doesn't matter what field you are in. If you enjoy solving problems, then you'll end up in a different profession which is related to your creative kind of interest. uh, but yeah, you should not restrict yourself to architecture. If you are an architect, you should be free, and you should think about going to any related field. That's what most of my friends are doing after architecture as well.
Right. So that's a quite an interesting insight because generally what happens is the design aspirants, all right. So when they want to do architecture or maybe fashion design or maybe design, they try to become very focused or very narrow minded, and they say that okay, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to not look at anything else. All right. Anything else in the sense, even in terms of their curiosity, they don't want to ignite the curiosity to understand, okay, what is happening in the creative world, in the creative
Mm-hmm.
world. Okay, what is happening in the engineering side or maybe the business side? Because as professionals in this field, when we have crossed all these milestones and when we look back, we kind of understand the importance of these having an open mind and exploring or understanding, trying to understand the other fields and all that. But that kind of maturity of thought process uh, is lacking in the design aspirants, at a very young age, because they don't see that interconnections that are happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, I think thanks for reiterating the point that
Mm.
keeping options open, right?
Yeah.
That's a very good insight.
Mm-hmm.
Gauri is asking, do you think that good college matters the most? Which should we look for? Okay, so her question
Uh,
is, does a good college matter for a career?
mm-hmm. So is it related to product design or architecture?
No,
Has
it
she
could be.
specified?
I mean, I'm not sure which specific field, but in general, for a creative profession like architecture, fashion, and design. Okay,
Yeah.
so what are your thoughts?
So I would say it does matter to some extent, but it's not the deal breaker for
Mm,
most of the companies, or um, even like these design consultancies. So they do see where you have studied, but most importantly, they see your work and your portfolio,
mm,
and your work and your portfolio kind of outstands everything else in the design and creative field. So don't worry too much about this thing. I was lucky that I studied in some of the well-known institutions, but even if I would not have, I think I would focus on my work. That kind of is the most important thing.
right, right. So Gauri responded saying architecture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think one thing that a good college gives you is that you're surrounded by smart people around you, and you learn a lot from your colleagues and your peers. That is the most valuable thing that you can get in a good well-known architecture school. Um, and again, even if you not end up being in one of the top tier schools, it's not a big problem, because I've seen even at Harvard and MIT, we see people coming from tier 2 colleges or tier 3 colleges in India. So
Hmm. Hmm.
don't worry too much about it. That's what I would say.
Right. Very good input. Again, focus on your work, okay, your curiosity, your passion, your exploration, and what you are doing. Colleges give definitely some impetus, but the major advantage has to be you, your work, your thought process, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, even I have seen in my profession where some of the people are from either not known college or a mediocre college or stuff like that, but they are extremely good in terms of their skills, in terms of their thought process, in terms of their leadership skills. That is what takes them far. Um, Even the college, let us take the college. Okay, see, when I passed out from IIT Delhi, okay, it definitely gave me a jump start to get into a good company. But what
Mm-hmm.
happens in the company and what happens later on, it all depends on the individual. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the focus should be on individual. Yes, you try to get into a good school or a good college, but if it doesn't happen, you don't have to dishearten yourself. You can continue in whichever college that you got and focus on yourself, your work, your professionalism, and all of that. And in this context, I would like to tell that my architecture school. I'm an architect as well. So my
Mm-hmm.
architecture school, when I joined, it was like 6 years old school in Andhra Pradesh. Okay, so it was a fairly new school. Okay, it was not a very well-known school, but if you look at the alumni of that particular school, amazing. Each one of my juniors, seniors, and classmates, they are doing really well, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are holding the positions of presidents, vice presidents, CEOs, CXOs, and amazing stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what matters is the individual person's drive, right? So one
Yeah.
may be from a great school, but if they do not have that kind of a motivation, you cannot expect a great future.
Yeah, very true, very true. And in
Cool.
fact, just like you gave your example, even my, SPA Bhopal is
Right.
comparatively not that old. At that time,
Yes.
we were the third batch of SPA Bhopal,
Right.
and
Right.
we were initially in the NIT Bhopal campus. We did not even have our own campus for the
Hmm.
first 3 4 years, and then people did not know about all these opportunities. So
Right.
ours was the first batch that gave seed exam from SPA Bhopal,
Right.
and we made
Okay.
to M.Des program.
Right.
And then I was the first one to make to MIT or some of these prestigious places. I mean, there are a lot of people from my college who have done that.
Hmm.
But again, going back to the point that ours was a very new college, so we
Hmm.
explored all these things by ourselves. We work hard. We explored these opportunities. So uh, again, yeah, it doesn't matter what college you are in. You should be very much open. You should be curious to know about the opportunities. There are a lot of workshops happening in India. You should participate in those workshops. There are workshops done by Charles Korea Foundation in Goa that
Right.
happens every year. There are these architecture conferences like 361-degree conference, ZXS conference. So you should attend all these conferences. That will give you a lot of exposure, and you'll get to know about all these opportunities that are there. So yeah.
Right. So, in this context, Sriram Ganesh Ram is asking, okay, how can I enroll myself into the workshops that you have organized, the
Mhm.
MIT workshop that you mentioned?
Mhm.
Any of these workshops or events or any of those such stuff, how can an individual enroll? I think Sriram is studying um, his Bachelor's of Design program, right? He's in the first year, right?
I see.
So, yeah, could you please give some insights on how they can enroll for these programs?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you should always follow, some of these pages, social media pages of all these MIT workshops, because every year we have one or the other workshop. So next month there is a workshop around MIT against racial prejudice. So there's one workshop around that, and then there are also a couple of workshops happening this year, which are organized by MIT professors and students. So you should go to the MIT um, web page where you'll find some of these opportunities. And if you don't find, these opportunities there, and you always reach out to me. I'll kind of give you the links or introduce you to some of the people who are organizing these events.
That is cool. All right. So, Saraja Puranik is asking a question. This is in terms of getting the kind of work after or while you are studying in your architecture school. So she's saying, but isn't it that the work, at least initially, you get depends on which school you have studied from?
Mhm. Um, yeah, that's true. That's true to some extent. But when you are in architecture school, you don't just learn from your peers, but you also learn from the entire architecture community in India. You should be very much open to all these platforms. Like NASA is one such opportunity. So you should participate in NASA, which is the National Association of Students of Architecture. Participate in these opportunities, competitions. There are so many architecture competitions. Participate in them. You'll get to know about groundbreaking work done by professionals as well as students of architecture. So yeah, that kind of will open your mindset about the kind of work that's happening in India and abroad, and also try to find internship opportunities outside India. Look for workshops, as I said. Does that answer your question? Is that what
Right.
was asked?
I would like to add to what you have said. Okay.
Mhm.
See, when somebody is shortlisting students for internships or giving opportunities and etc., there are
Mhm.
many criterias they look into while during doing the selection. It's not just the school that you are attending from. It is
Yeah.
also about your portfolio and your statement of purpose, like what kind of work you want to do, what you want to really do, what is your interest.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
So one of
Yeah.
the important things is your portfolio. Okay. So you may be from a mediocre school, but if your portfolio is superb, you will be given the first opportunity compared to a student who's coming from a very well-known school with a mediocre portfolio, right?
Yeah.
So especially in this creative world, a lot of importance is given to the portfolio, number one, and the alignment of your vision with the alignment of the architects or the recruiting agency, anybody, right? So, as like for example, what Piyush has also said, that when he was looking for his internship, his thoughts, his work were aligned with the professor's thought and work. So that is the reason he got opportunity overseas, right? So yes, school matters. The school from where you are joining, okay, matters, but it is only a certain percentage. It is not the complete 100%,
Yeah.
right, Sarja? I hope that answers your question. Okay,
Mhm. Sure.
so
I would like to add one
yes,
thing
please.
here, Mesh. So our college is also not, our architecture college is also not very well known. It's also very new,
Hmm.
and but our alumni have created a culture of working in Germany. So a
All
lot of
right.
my friends, my juniors, and my juniors are working in Germany right now after
Hmm.
graduating from architecture school. So they created a new culture, So they went there and then they did good work. Then they invited their juniors. So even if you are from a not very well known college, you should create that culture. You should have the kind of curiosity and energy to do that. um,
Right.
uh,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. 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 Cool. Right. So Sana Fatima is asking, okay, so what are the competitive exams you faced before enrolling to architecture school. So I think when you have given your architecture exam, you are saying 10 years back, there were two exams, NATA and JEE. There were no
Yeah.
other entrance exams for architecture, isn't it?
No, there was NATA, there was AIEEE, and then there was the IIT JEE 3.
Oh, there were three of them.
Yeah.
All right. So did you give all the three?
No, I just
Or
gave
JEE?
AIEEE architecture.
Oh, AIEEE. All right,
Yeah, yeah.
AIEEE. Okay. All right, cool. So next question is Chaitanya Deshpande is asking, even though B.Arch course is one of the longest courses in India in terms of the duration, architects tend to get low salaries in India compared to other careers. What are your views on this?
So it's a very good question.
Yeah.
Yes, I do agree that architects get lower salaries as compared to their, you know, BTech or technology uh, counterparts. But again, in architecture, you get a license to practice. So if you are good, if you are confident in your abilities, after working for a few years, you can start your own practice. And once you start your own practice and your work is good, then you can very quickly earn a lot of money. So that's the advantage here. It's very much similar to a doctor who has his own clinic, and if he's good, he earns a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it depends on your abilities um, to earn money. Of course, in the beginning, you have to work for a few years to learn the craft. But after that, if you are good enough, you can make a lot of money after by practicing.
Absolutely. This is one of the fundamental questions I get asked by students and parents. All right. And I try many times to explain them what architecture is all about. You know, I mean, architecture is a profession and the architect is a professional, right? So somebody who is doing architecture, the aim should be to practice as an individual professional rather than going and working under an architect as an employment or as a job,
Yeah,
right? See, why would anybody after 5 years of doing architecture uh, go out and seek for an employment under an architect, right? Because of few reasons. Okay, so I would want all the attendees to understand this more clearly. Okay, they seek employment with other architects because number one, either they are not confident in their craft, right? Or they feel that they still need to learn something more than what they have been taught in architecture for 5 years, number one. Number two, it could be because you do not have enough connections to get a project on your own, right? Okay. So if you address these 2 points while you are studying your architecture, by the time you come out of your architecture school, you would be having enough connections to get the projects, and also you would have enough experience and confidence to execute those projects, right?
yeah,
Now let us
yeah,
understand from an architect's point of view who is looking to employ people under him, right? Okay, so let us say you approach an architect with your portfolio and you say that, okay, I need a job. Okay, and the architect over there, he has X number of projects with him and he's looking to expand his team, right? And depending on your portfolio of works and your confidence level, he will have to decide whether to give you an opportunity or not. If yes, what kind of opportunity? Let us say you have great skills, okay, great experience and etc. Okay, and any project an architect gets, if he gives to you, you are able to confidently execute it and deliver it. And that kind of a confidence in architect will only get if you can show some previous works, similar works that you have done. In such a
yeah,
case, he would assign you on one or two projects, and later on, he will probably make you a partner in the firm because you have those capacities to deliver the project. But
yeah,
if you do not have that confidence or experience, or if you're able to deliver the project, then what he has to do, he has to give you somehow an opportunity for you to learn. Okay. Now, which wise person will give you an opportunity to learn and also a lot of money? for the same, right? It doesn't make
Mhm.
sense, right? So you're
Yeah.
going there and joining as an intern, right? So as an intern, because you're learning, so you cannot expect or demand for a big, large salary, right?
Yeah.
Now, so what I mean to say here is if you're becoming an architect, your goal should be to practice architecture. And there is a question here, Vedant is asking, what does architecture practice exactly mean? I think that's a perfect
Mhm.
question, all right? So what it means is that, okay, as an architect, you are trained and qualified to build spaces, buildings, whatever, uh, whatever that is around related to that, right? So
Yeah.
what does it mean is, let us say you have a client who comes to you saying that, okay, I have 2 acres of plot, empty plot with me. Okay, I'm thinking of utilizing that and make money out of it. Okay, so sometimes the client comes and says that, okay, I want to build a hospital over there, or sometimes they'll come and say, I want to use the space for building villas and selling them and etc. Right? As an architect, you should have the business acumen to analyze the space and suggest, okay, how you can design the space in such a way that the client becomes profitable, right?
Yeah.
Right. So you need to have, number one, you need to have the business acumen, you need to have the vision, you need to be empathetic to understand what your client wants and what your customers want. Okay. And then
True.
create required plans, models, and etc. to convey that vision. Okay. And also ensure that the estimation of the project is within the budget of the client. Once the approval is done, okay, you scout for consultants and contractors who can execute this plan within the right budget and the right quality, right? So once
Yeah.
you do
Yeah.
that, you give out these opportunities of job opportunities to the respective contractors or consultants, and also supervise the project and ensure that the project is delivered on time with the right specifications, with the right design, what you have envisioned, right? And in this
Yeah.
process, there are so many issues that would come up. So you have to liaison all these issues with all the stakeholders. So that is what is meant by architectural practice. And that is what the college is supposed to train you. If
Yeah.
the college is not training you, that is what you're supposed to gain from these architecture colleges, right?
That's
So
true. Yeah.
I always advise my students like this, okay? If you're joining architecture, please keep in your mind the degree is not important, but what is important is your experience, your knowledge, and the connects that you have built in these 5 years, such that when you come out of the college, you should have at least 5 projects in your hand that you can execute on your own. Then you will become a successful architect, and you will not be questioning about the salaries again. You would not be saying, okay, this architect is giving only me 20,000, that architect is giving 25,000, whereas my other friends who gone into software or other fields, they're earning 40,000, 60,000, 70,000. There's no comparison.
Yeah.
If you are
Yeah.
able to sustain your practice, okay, that's the whole point. Okay, you can earn a lot of money, and there are so many such examples, okay, who are successfully doing that, and you can also do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Sure. I have this
yeah.
few examples. For example, Anagram Architects in Delhi. I
Mhm,
know the architect very well, Madhav.
mhm,
So they started practicing right after finishing their undergrad
mhm,
degree.
mhm.
So both of them were friends in undergrad, and they started doing projects as soon as they graduated from B.Arch.
Right.
So yeah, it's exactly like Umesh said. You should build your craft, be confident, build your network, and start practicing. And once you start practicing, maybe you can start with small projects. You learn a lot, and once you do some small projects, maybe in a few years, you'll be more confident, and then you can take larger projects like hospitals or
Yes.
whatever. So
Yes.
yeah, it's
Yes.
just about starting small and building your
Mhm.
knowledge, your confidence, and your craft.
Right. Right. Great. Cool. Okay. Thanks for that question, Chaitanya. It's a very interesting and very pertinent question, and I want this message to be spread all across, because I keep seeing this kind of messages on social media and etc., especially by guys who have finished their architecture and then they're wondering, okay, why I'm not getting paid? You know, in fact, this is a question a student will have to ask even before entering architecture school, so
Yeah.
that they have enough time to build whatever is required. Now, if you ask the question after architecture, you lost 5 years of valuable time.
That's true.
Right,
And
cool.
one thing also I would like to specify here to
Mhm.
everyone, Mesh, is that you don't need a master's degree to practice architecture. Your
Yes.
undergrad degree is sufficient because you get a license. And India is one of the very few countries that gives you, license to practice architecture right after your undergrad. Because if
Yes.
you see in the US, you have to work for at least, I don't know, 100 hours or something. Then
Mm-hmm.
you have to give a lot of tests even after you finish your degree. You have to give
Right.
professional tests to get the license. But
Right.
in India, you get it right after your undergrad. So to do a master's degree is not compulsory. But people do master's degree to to specialize in a particular area, or
Mm-hmm.
if they're interested in academics, or if they want to do PhD, or become a professor. But if you
Mm.
want to practice, you don't require a master's degree in India.
Absolutely. In fact, there is no. That's the reason I was asking you what made you think about Masters of Design after you had done architecture. You know, so
Yeah.
masters is not required. Okay, so
Yeah.
as a B.Arch graduate, once you register with Council of Architecture, you are called as an architect, and you are a licensed architect to design spaces, right? So no other degree is required unless you feel you are missing something and you have to gain that knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And especially in India, like
Mhm.
unlike Europe or US, all
Mhm.
these tier two cities and tier three cities are now growing very rapidly um, at an amazing pace. So there's a lot of requirement of architects in India,
True.
highly trained architects. So it's not like there are no jobs. There are a lot of jobs. There are so many opportunities. You
Hmm.
just have to be good, and you'll get opportunities, and you'll make a lot of money.
Right. Okay, so we have some interesting question from Rahul Shubham. Okay, he has posted two questions. Okay, so let us deal that out. He's asking how to make these design learning or training methods more persuasive and interesting for anyone who is pursuing design. He continues to ask, when we start talking about our design process, the non designers get bored of the jargons and exhibit a tendency of immunity to accept the change in solution approach. The most common scenes at job.
Okay. So it's a very good question by Rahul. So I think there are a few fundamentals that we have to always follow while being a design professional,
Hmm.
and one of them is to dig deep into the problem. And so jargons are for those who are pitching it to a client, or taking it to a business kind of a level. But if you are trying to solve the problem, you don't need to use these jargons. You just have to understand the problem deeply, dig deep into it. So one of the methods we learned in design school was um, um, this method called the fishbone method, in which we kind of dug deep into the problem by asking why,
Hmm.
and then
Hmm.
once we have the clear answer as to what is the root cause of the problem, then we start solving it. So this is the fundamentals that I learned in design school. I still follow it even at my projects at MIT. So I hope this answers the question.
Right. So I would like to add here that we had one session with Nitasha. She is a communication design coach. This was a number 10 e-meet. Okay, so it is available on YouTube channel, on BQLab's YouTube channel. So the theme was how to sell your design. Okay, now she has very beautifully explained how do you sell your design, how do you communicate your ideas without using jargons, right? because we have to get into the level of our listeners to help them understand and reciprocate by using the same language that they use. All right. Or otherwise, they will get completely lost and they will become resistant to listen to what you are saying. All right. So I will share that link of that e-meet, okay, in the chat window. So Rahul, Shubham, please do watch that particular session. So Nitasha is going to explain you how to sell your design, and she gives a lot of insights um, into the aspects of understanding and explaining your idea in a very simple language, so that the message goes into the heart of the person. Right? So please do watch that. Okay. So we have a next question. Sana Fatima is asking, IIT JEE or JEE Mains 2, which is more considerable for entrance for architecture? So, Piyush, I'm not sure if you are in touch with these two exams now or not, but let me just give you a background. So, there are these two different exams conducted by IIT JEE, okay, for getting into architecture. Now, there are few schools in IITs like IIT Kharagpur, IIT Roorkee, right? They also provide architecture program, but for getting into that program, the route is to take the IIT JEE mains, clear it, then go to IIT JEE advanced, clear that, and then take architecture aptitude test, qualify in that, and then you get into the IIT Roorkee or IIT Kharagpur architecture schools. Okay, that is one
Yeah.
route. The second route, this is not for IITs though, but the exam is called IIT JEE Mains 2,
Mm-hmm.
where the admission to SPAs and NITs and few other architecture schools happen through this particular entrance exam, IIT JEE Mains 2. So the question by Sana is, which is more considerable for entrance, IIT JEE or JEE Mains 2?
Oh, I see. Um, um,
Okay,
I
so
think
let me make it a little bit simpler, all right? So you have studied in SPA, School of Planning and Architecture, okay, and I'm sure you would have some colleagues or some friends who are parallelly studying in IIT Kharagpur or IIT Roorkee. Did you have any friend?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have experienced the School of Planning and Architecture. I mean, School of Planning and Architecture is a national school. It's a school of national importance, right? So it's a prominent school. So
Mm-hmm.
similarly, a school, an architecture school in IIT JEE or sorry, not IIT JEE, IIT Kharagpur or Roorkee, right? Even they are prominent schools. So, but uh, the aim and the philosophy might be different for each of the schools, right? So if you look back with your friends studying in these schools compared to your SPA, okay, Bhopal, what do you feel? Do you feel any difference in the kind of work you do or the kind of projects you do or the kind of people who visit and give you reviews and etc.?
I see. Okay. So in IITs, you get one benefit if you're doing an architecture program from there, because you also have, access to other kind of opportunities. Like you have people who are doing BTech, who are doing technology programs. So you learn from them as well. While the benefit with SPAs is that they are very much focused in architecture and planning. So you kind of specialize in these two areas. So each has their own, pros and cons. I studied from SPA, and we had a lot of talk sessions and programs by international architects in our college. So we had a lot of exposure in that sense. But IITs also, they have a very old and reputed culture, uh, and there are a lot of well-known architects who have passed out from, graduated from IITs.
Right.
So in IITs, you kind of learn to work with other disciplines as well. So if you are more into exploratory um, um, uh, aspect of architecture, you might want to go to an IIT. And if you want to focus in architecture and planning itself, then I would suggest SPAs. But both of them are kind of extremely good colleges.
Yeah, very true. I also have observed certain things in terms of who goes where, you know. So generally, the getting into IIT for studying architecture is the toughest route. Okay, so
Mhm.
because you have to clear the IIT JE mains, then advanced, okay, and then you have to be below certain rank, and
Mhm.
then you go to architecture. Generally, what I have found is students who wanted to go for a particular stream in IITs, okay,
Mhm.
since they were not getting that particular stream, and because they are creative and also inclined towards architecture, they
Yeah.
kind of get into architecture. Okay, I hardly seen any student who has prepared for IIT mains and advanced only to get into architecture. I've not seen such kind of students in general, right? Um,
That's true. Yeah.
all right, so there seems to be one student who is taking that route to get into IIT Kharagpur by taking architecture, so by taking mains and advanced, right? But anyway, the number of students is very less, and it is a very, very difficult route, number one. And secondly, SPAs, as you said, okay, the School of Planning and Architecture is a national institute set up for the whole purpose of mentoring students to become great architects, right? Like, for example, IITs are set up to bring out the engineering excellence, like IIMs are set out to bring out the management excellence, right?
Yeah.
Like AIMS is set up to bring out the medical healthcare excellence. So similarly, SPAs are designated to bring the architecture excellence in the country, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I also feel that taking the JEE mains 2 is the most easiest and sure shot way of getting into SPA if you put in good amount of effort.
Mhm.
Okay?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
right. So there are a couple of questions again related with the colleges. They are saying, okay, what if I don't get into like IITs, SPAs, and similar questions? Okay. So what we had in fact discussed the same point, okay, at length, endeavor, right? So since you're asking, what I suggest is if you can just play back a few minutes into the video, okay, you will see the same question being answered, and we have spent good amount of time in answering the importance of the college, right? So I would suggest you to please look into that. All right. So yeah, so at this context, I would like to inform all the participants that see, as designers, as creative professionals, we communicate a lot of our ideas through sketching, right? Sketching
Mhm.
has a very important and prominent place to role in the life of a design entrepreneur, or anybody who is related to the creative field. So we are giving out a few uh, free classes for design sketching. Okay. So the link is, I'll share the link. Anybody who would want to utilize, it's a free 3-day program, 3 hours spread over 3 days. Okay. So which is starting next week. Please do uh, participate in it and make use of that. And my colleague Sean Disa, he is from IIT Delhi. He's going to teach those classes personally, and you would see a tremendous improvement in your sketching skills within 3 hours of time, right? So Gauri Marakanda is asking, how can we reach out to you after this live session? So Piyush, so would you like to share your Instagram account or your or any other means people can reach out to you?
Sure. Yeah, I can give you my LinkedIn link.
Yeah, if you
because
can
I'm
just copy
most
paste it
only,
in
I don't
the.
have Instagram.
All right, sure. If you can copy paste in the chat window of Zoom, I will copy paste it over here.
Sure. Yeah.
So, guys, if you have any other questions, please feel free to ask all those questions, right? So, this is a great opportunity. Piyush has allocated certain time to answer your questions. So, anything related with his journey or any other matter as well related with creative fields, please do feel free to ask, and we would definitely answer those questions. Yeah, I got that. So, so I'm sharing Piyush. Oops, sorry, it's not copied. All right. So Endeavor is asking the question one more time. Okay. So he's saying, is it okay if I don't get to one of the great colleges like IITs, SPAs, etc.? So the simple answer is Endeavor, yes, absolutely no problem. Okay, you can get into any of the colleges. Now, one thing I would like to share that all these architecture colleges are overseen by the Council of Architecture. So what does that mean is they are going to review these colleges and give the necessary permissions to run these colleges. So unless the colleges meet specific criteria, they will not give the permission to renew their license and renew to accept more students for architecture schools. So please ensure that whichever college that you're joining, it is in the list of COA approved college list, and then you would definitely would get quality education there. And I did share Piyush LinkedIn profile in the chat window in the live chat. So please do access it, and you can reach out to him. And in case if you want to reach out to us, you can send a message to. I'm just typing the number. So you can reach us out on 959-100-1000. Okay, fine. So a lone cyborg is asking, can you show your portfolio? Have you got anything on the net or anywhere, Piyush? They would like to see some of your work.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I do have a Behance portfolio, but it has not been updated.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It must be an outdated one,
because
but nevertheless,
yeah,
I think it
I made it like
definitely.
2 years ago when I was
All right,
graduating from IIT.
all right.
Um, but I can share my projects that I did in MIT with you.
Yeah, yeah, that would be really
That
cool if
I
you can
did.
share some of the projects. And if you don't mind, you can also show us the Behance projects because it is the life and the work of a designer is a continuous process, right? Definitely, Piyush, you would have definitely seen an improvement from the first sketch that you have drawn in an architecture school to the kind of work that you are doing now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? So there definitely be a lot of improvement. So one of the things that all of us as design aspirants, design professionals will have to inculcate is to understand and not be judgmental in terms of a person's work, because the skills improvement of skills is a continuous thing, right? I hope you all agree with me. Okay, so um, so do not, whenever you are looking at any of the portfolios or works and etc., do not jump to a conclusion because that particular piece of work could be like maybe 7 years old or maybe a 10 years old, right? We would not know, right? Okay, cool. So we wait for Piyush to share his work.
Okay, sure.
And meanwhile, there is another question by Anjali Saju. She is asking, how did you deal with the language barriers, if any, when you are doing your projects? That's a fantastic question, especially when you're working in an international context where you are meeting different people from different cultures, regions, languages.
Mm-hmm.
So even though they may be speaking English, for example, even though we are speaking English, a Britisher or an American would not be able to understand us that clearly, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
so how do you deal with such kind of language barriers?
Um, so I mean, luckily, I studied in an English medium school, but I understand that in India, not everybody comes from an English medium school, so
Hmm.
it's natural to face a few problems coming to a country where uh, um, uh, English is the first language, and for example, Hindi is not the most spoken language. So in that case, I think. You should not care about being grammatically correct all the time. If you are not confident about your English, you should um, you should be careful about, or you should care about expressing yourself in the right manner, because articulation is not just about your correct grammar. It's about your
Right,
how you speak and how your ideas are conveyed. So that's
right.
the most important thing. So you should have the confidence and kind of passion with which you speak. And if you can convince the other person, it doesn't matter if you're grammatically correct or not.
Okay.
um,
See, at this context, I would like to give one small example. All
mhm.
right. Guys, do you all know Philip Stark? Okay. You should be knowing Philip Stark. Okay. Philip Stark is a very famous designer. I would want you to watch his TED talk. He has given a TED talk, right? Now, he is a great designer, but I would want you to watch that TED talk and see how he is communicating his ideas. Okay. So, English is not his native language, but he really tried to speak, but at the end of the presentation you are left with the message in your minds, right? So please search for Philip Stark TED talk and please do watch it. It's a very interesting talk, and you'll also get to know about Philip Stark, who he is.
So these are a couple of projects I recently did at MIT. It was in the
Mm.
media lab. But my master's thesis is not here in the portfolio because I haven't updated it. But I would really like to share that as well with the participants, um, because that was my the prime project I did at MIT. But I can share some of these projects. For example, this project is was done in the media lab with some of my colleagues from Harvard as well as the media lab.
So many things in the world can be made tangible through touch. But what of things that can be seen but not felt? Can we make smiles tangible?
Very cool. Tangible interfaces. Very interesting.
Yeah. Then there are a couple of other projects like this one. So this one was again in the media lab. So this project was, around the problem that, especially at MIT, there are a lot of students who are uh, not very, happy. They have some issues like depression or anxiety. So we thought that what can we create a simple product to alleviate their problems. So we did a secondary research. We studied issues around, depression. So these are some of the areas. For example, they feel distracted, they become more anxious, very irritable, and less affectionate. And then we also did this primary research in which we kind of did a contextual inquiry, analysis in which we observed students and in their working places. So we put some cameras and we tried to do this kind of analysis in such a way that they don't feel interrupted while they're doing their
Mm.
work.
Mhm.
And after this kind of analysis phase, we did this user flow exercise in which we tried to understand how we can create a product around it. So we thought, can we use an object as simple as a stress ball,
Mhm.
and enable it with technology and create a product like this. Um, so yeah, this was the journey. This is the scenario which we thought while creating this design.
Hmm. That's quite interesting. So, what does that product do? The constellation?
So the product basically, if let's say you are a friend or a family member of a person who is
Mhm.
not feeling very well, or needs care, so you just give them a stress ball,
Mhm.
and you ask them that whenever you're stressed, just press this stress ball, and
Mhm.
when they do it, you as a family member or a friend get
Mhm.
notified, because the constellation, that is the device that we've created,
Mhm.
this is always moving, but when the person is feeling stressed and they press the ball, the
Mhm.
movement gets delayed, or the speed gets decreased. So you
Okay.
get a sense that your friend is not feeling very well, or is feeling anxious. So then you
Mhm.
can call them, or text them, or ask how they're feeling.
Okay. Okay. So,
Yeah.
we can obviously be able to program different people in the same device, isn't it?
Yes.
Right.
That was the idea.
That was right. Okay. Great. Awesome.
And then I would also like to share a few projects mm, like this one. So this was the project that I did in Australia, and because of this project, my professor at MIT, he kind of gave me the opportunity as a Tata Fellow, because
Nice.
the work that I did at MIT is also related to data analysis, and the kind of intersection of technology and architecture. So in this, it was almost a year-long project in which the main issue was around sustainable construction practices, because
Hmm.
they are dying out in the Himalayan region, and how can we use Indian census data to understand the problem, because the problem has not been understood. That's the that's the issue. Uh, so if you see, all these kind of problems that are happening, like climate change and all these disasters, they have some relationship to the um, to the kind of the construction that's happening there, because people construct in fault lines. They don't kind of think about the nature while they're constructing. So it takes a toll um, on the nature. So the problem is that there is no statistical analysis of the location or geographical patterns where these practices are dying out. So this was the kind of the need that we understood, um, to identify alternate measures, and so to kind of inform all these professionals like conservationists, environmentalists, policymakers, planners, to kind of understand this problem in detail. um, so if you see, all these architects, they are actually doing great work in terms of sustainability. They use local materials, which is very beneficial to the environment. And the opportunity here is that if you see in Indian census data, that you see that there are all these kind of data around the usage of materials. For example, wood, bamboo, stone, cement, all these things, all this data is available. So how can we use this data to understand the patterns of decline of sustainable architecture? So that's what we did in this project. We did a lot of statistical analysis, and the kind of um, overall goal was to create a map through which we can understand the problem in detail. And we created this LQ value, which is location quotient analysis, to understand where exactly the traditional architecture is dying out. And if you see, we created this map, and we found some interesting insights. For example, areas near a water body or near a large city, there uh, the vernacular or sustainable architecture is dying out more rapidly than other areas, because the availability of modern materials like cement and concrete. Um, so this was an interesting project, and I would urge people who are going into architecture field to kind of do projects like this, which kind of promote sustainable architecture, and also inform the professionals like conservationists and policymakers to take certain steps in this direction.
Right, right. And Piyush, can you do you have any of your architecture student works, like your maybe you would have created a portfolio after your final year of architecture? Do you have access to that? Can
I
you
have, yeah, I do have my architecture thesis here. I can
yeah,
show that.
thesis is it? All right.
Yeah, so this is the project. As you can see that, I'm working with these people uh, from the village
Mhm.
where my project was located in Uttarkashi. And so the idea was to create a solution for their habitat, which was destructed, kind of destroyed
Mhm.
after the floods of 2013.
Mhm.
So we did this research around these areas. For example, we understood the areas where water is kind of clogged during the floods, and then we understood the areas where dilapidated structures are located, or old or traditional structures are located. And then we understood the societal structure and what kind of houses are there. So this was all a part of the research phase.
Mhm.
And then the most important phase was the design phase, in which we did it while working with the people. So it was a participatory process. So as
Mhm.
you can see in some of these pictures, we worked with these people, and try to understand their needs and aspirations in terms of the spaces that they live in. The step two was to kind of understand what social structure or spatial structure do they want of their houses. So as you can see that these boxes were given to the people, and we asked them to arrange these boxes to create their spaces. So it was a very deeply culturally embedded process. And then in the third step was kind of to show them some of these sketches and then take their feedback on the design solution that we had. So after all this participatory process, then I designed the some of these concepts. So for example, one of the problems that is there in these mountainous areas is that the houses are not extendable. So my solution was that can we create a house using sustainable materials
Mm-hmm.
which can be expanded later on when the family of the person grows.
Right.
So that's why you see that there's a scope for expansion behind the house as well as on the top of the house and
Mm-hmm.
sideways. This
Mm-hmm.
was an idea to adapt to the changing
Right.
family structure. um, and then also there were some integration strategies because the village is kind of divided into different communities and sections. So of course we can't do it in one generation, but this change can be catalyzed through several generations. So if we give them spaces like this, so as you can see that there are two houses kind of adjacent to each other perpendicularly, and there's a backyard here. So if and but they are from different communities, so there's a kind of a separation. But if we give them a common backyard like this, where there's a visual connection, the kids, when they start playing later on, when they grow up, they might start bonding with each other. So this
Right.
is one of the ways to kind of integrate the communities together.
Mm-hmm.
And then so this village that I was working on, it was a watermill community in which they have these watermills that they use to kind of get their food from, and also it creates electricity. So it's a very sustainable way that these people have been kind of incorporating in their day-to-day lives. But because of the floods, this kind of livelihood was diminished. So my idea was also to how to regenerate this lost livelihood. So as you can see that there's a watermill here. So how to incorporate design elements in such a way that a lost livelihood can be regenerated. So since people have stopped using watermills, my idea was to create a watermill and include the social spaces around it, so that when children are playing or women are washing clothes, their husbands are in the watermill, so there's a visual connectivity and
Mm-hmm.
people feel more secure to work in the watermill. So this was the idea, to enhance the diminishing inherent occupation of the watermill community.
Right. So, what is a
As you can
watermill?
see,
Can you please explain what a watermill is?
so watermill is basically in Uttarakhand. It's called panchakki, which is uh, a kind of a motor in which they put gehu and then they use it for their day-to-day livelihood. So that is the watermill, and it's prevalent in some of these hilly areas of Uttarakhand where they can channelize the water to run the mills with that energy.
So, is it like a windmill? So, or like the purpose of a watermill is to draw water out to a different level and then flow it to other places?
Yes. So
Okay.
if there's a water stream, you can channelize the water from the stream and run the mill. So that is
Okay.
the idea. But
Okay.
after the floods, because most of these water mills were destroyed,
Oh.
people were not very much willing to recreate them. So
Mhm.
the problem was how to motivate people to start using them again, because it's very sustainable. It creates renewable energy, and it's also a source of livelihood for the people. So
Hmm.
that was the idea. And also to one of the design elements was to kind of keep the watermills in in such a kind of location where there is a visual access with
Hmm.
the village community. So this was another idea. And if you see the planning, I kind of incorporated the watermills in such a way that it falls within the most common routes of the villagers, so that they
Mhm.
can easily access them while they are uh, uh, going to their social spaces, or kind of going to their homes back from the market.
Hmm.
So incorporating the watermills within their social day-to-day social structures was another idea.
Hmm. Um, at this level, did you also think about the economic improvement of the people associated with the watermills?
Yes, I did. So, it's not just about using the watermills, but
Hmm.
the core idea was to regenerate the lost livelihood,
Right,
because
right.
people, when they use these watermills, whatever product they get out of it, they
Hmm.
sell it to the market.
Hmm.
And since it was destroyed because of the floods, they stopped working on it. So most of them were unemployed, and the few people who kind of did not have any means of survival, they started migrating to other cities, uh, which is again not a very sustainable way
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
so yeah, how to retain the lost livelihood
Right.
was the idea.
Okay, cool. So, Piyush, do you sketch? I mean, do you sketch as a hobby? Do you have a sketchbook or something like that? Do you maintain any?
I do, but it's not online. I
Okay.
mean, I don't publish it online, but I can share with some of the people later on. I can find my sketches, and I'll be very
Yeah,
happy to
yeah,
share
yeah. I
those.
think one of the participants is asking, can we see your sketches if you have any?
No, here they are not. They have not been published, but I'll be very happy to share them later on.
Cool, cool. So there is a compliment and a question from Chaitanya Deshpande. He's saying, "Sir, your project Tangible Smile would
Mhm.
prove to be a blessing for those who are blind. Have you worked on projects that look into the problems of the physically challenged? If so, can you please share some?"
Sure, this is one of the projects, and also I worked on a couple of books in undergrad. One is called Design for All. I was the chief editor of the book. It's published. You can just
Mhm.
search for it, Design for All, April 2013 edition,
Okay.
and that book has a lot of projects from students of SPA around disability and
Oh, is
people
it?
with.
Okay, let me just type in design for all, is it? For all,
Let me also search for
2013.
it. Yeah.
Interesting. Oh yeah, I think I found it, but I'm not sure if this is the right one. Let me share my screen.
Mhm. Yeah, I found it as well. Uh, you want me to share the screen?
Oh, yeah, please share. Please share.
Okay. Yeah, so this is the book that I worked on
Yeah,
in
I got the
undergrad.
same one as well. So I'll share this with the students.
Did you find the same book?
Yeah, yeah, the same book I found as
Okay. And then there's another book which I worked on during my undergrad. It's called Uniting Differences. It's also published by SPA Bhopal, which has a
well.
lot of projects on disability.
Okay.
It's called Uniting Differences.
Hmm. So Piyush, do you use any social media? I mean, other than LinkedIn?
Yeah, I do use Facebook and
Okay,
also WhatsApp, but I don't use Instagram.
right, right. So,
This
uh,
is the other book.
right. Uniting differences. All right.
Yeah. So I was one of the editors for this book as well
Hmm.
during my undergrad. It also has a lot of interesting projects because our college did India-wide competition for universal design, and all those selected projects have been published in this book.
Okay. Could you share me the link for the United Differences?
So it's not online. I think you'll have to buy a copy.
Okay, okay, cool, cool.
Yeah.
So those who want to connect with Piyush can do so by uh, accessing his LinkedIn profile,
Yeah.
right? So it has been shared in the live chat now. So please do connect with him, right? Okay. Right. I think we have covered a lot of topics um, about your past, right?
Mhm.
So would you like to share something about your future? What you're planning to do? What are your plans for future?
So yeah, the current project that I'm working on, I already shared a few slides on that. It's called Manush Labs.
Hmm.
Uh, we are trying to create an organization in India that supports innovators and social entrepreneurs. So right now we're in the collaboration phase where we are partnering with social organizations in India that could help us with network building. Also, we are trying to reach out to founding kind of funding organizations and kind of the impact investors who can support our program operationally. And also, technology wise, we are reaching out to companies like IBM, Google, who can provide us specific tools or services that we can kind of uh, facilitate to our participants. And we are also looking for volunteers
Mhm.
who are interested in graphic design and UX design.
Mhm.
So you can follow our page, Manush Labs page. I think I shared that also. I can share that also because we are going to post a few design openings in that very soon. And if people can follow that, they'll
So,
get to know
yeah,
about
the
the.
manushlabs.org, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So this one, initially it was called Manus Lab. So it's here, it's just Manus. I'll
Mhm.
share the link in the chat.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, they can. You can. These guys can follow the our page, and we are going to update a few, opportunities very soon.
Okay.
They'll get updated. Yeah.
So for some reason, I'm not able to copy paste this from the Zoom. Okay, it's not allowing me to copy paste.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's not a link, right? I mean, if it is a link, I can click on it and it will take me to the page, but it's not allowing me
Oh,
to copy paste. Mhm.
yeah. Just give me a second. I'm giving you the link.
Sure. All right. So, meanwhile, how the pandemic has been treating you? So, was there any challenges or yes, I mean, we're all bound to be at home. So, has that affected
Mhm.
your work or your vision, or can you share some thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, pandemic was actually. I mean, I empathize with all the people who have suffered
Hmm.
uh, because of this kind of it's a very bad I would say uh, almost like a disaster that's happened across the world. But personally, I got a lot of free time. I got time to reflect on what I want to do and write a lot because I journal a lot. So I wrote all my experiences down, and I
Hmm.
thought about my next steps. I focused a lot on this upcoming project that I'm working on.
Mm-hmm.
And also I started exercising regularly, meditating. So these things kind of uh, 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 I kind of focused on myself. So that was one of the good things
Right,
that the pandemic gave to us. Um,
right, right.
yeah. Also, work from home was good for me because I mostly worked on my thesis, and before the pandemic, I had finished my groundwork.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I did not face a lot of problems in that aspect because I could
Okay.
focus on my writing my thesis while
All
being at
right.
home.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. All right. So I think we have asked a lot of questions and we got a lot of insights. Um,
Mhm.
so guys, any other questions that you have? We have last say 9 minutes to make use of precious time. Okay. So anything else would you like to ask? Please feel free to ask your questions here. Okay. So Piyush, when was the last time you visited India?
So it was in January when
Oh, okay.
we did the India initiative.
Oh, right. Of course. Yes, yes, yes. India Initiative. Right. And how is your place, Oregano? Right. So are people moving around as usual?
So I'm in Oregon. I'm in a small town. It's a student town.
Mhm,
It's not very dense.
mhm,
I thought when I came here, I thought I'll just stay here for a few days. But later on, I realized that it's a beautiful place and it's very kind of less dense. So not very risky in terms of COVID spread. So I
mhm.
decided to stay back, and it's been almost 2.5 months. I'm still here in Oregon.
Right.
So there is the Pacific coast is very close to our house, so we go there usually. Um, it's in Newport, which is like an hour long drive.
Mhm,
Um, and also there are some very beautiful national parks around Oregon.
mhm.
Um, so if people are planning to visit US, I would recommend them to come this side as well because usually people don't come to Oregon. It's not very
Correct.
famous place. Uh, but I think when the lockdown opens up, I'll move back to Boston because that's
Mhm.
where my lab is, and that's where I'll be after the lockdown. Yeah.
Right. Right. Okay. Cool. So I think a final question from the lone cyborg. Any tips for architecture aspirants who are going for B.Arch? Would you like to give any tips for him?
Architectural aspirants going to be uh, yeah, I think if you're very much interested and passionate about architecture, before going into the field you should get a general sense of the opportunities that the field provides, because I did not have that exposure when I was going into architecture. So you should read like works of good architects like B.V. Doshi, Charles Correa. Try to understand their architecture language, and if you can imbibe that language in yourself, in the initial phase of your career, I think you'll have a better chances of being successful architects. So that's one thing, and other thing is. Be very open minded. If you're going into architecture, don't just think about solving a problem with the lens of an architect, because architecture is probably one of the only professions which allows you to work with other fields. So as an architect, you can you work as a sociologist, you work as a technologist, you work as an engineer. So architecture allows you to work, to wear all these hats. And we are very lucky that we are in the field of architecture, and we can practice all these things. um, so yeah, be open minded about this.
Right. Yeah. So cool. So great tip. Thank you so much, Piyush. And I would like to uh, thank you officially for taking time on and sacrificing a morning, early morning, where everybody we'll be sleeping and we'll be having tremendous opportunity to sleep well during morning, right? So thank you so much for coming over and spending time with my uh, pas- participants of this design quotient industry meet. All right. We really appreciate the journey that you have shared with us, the learnings that you have shared with us, and we will also um, congratulate for the journey so far,
Mhm.
great journey so far, and also wish you all the best with your Manush Lab venture. And
Yeah.
I guess you're tackling the problems what many have not are not willing to look into, right? So that's a commendable thing, right? So thank you so much, Piyush. And I would also like to thank all the participants who are here. Okay, please do make use of these e-meets, live e-meets happening every Sunday, 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And next week, we have a renowned architect, Asad Firdausi. So he's known for concept chairs and handcrafted solid wood furniture. He's from Pune. So please do attend his e-meet. And tomorrow, Monday, evening 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, we are having DQ Labs conversations where I'm going to explain you how to create your portfolios for either Indian colleges or abroad colleges for architecture, fashion, design. So please do attend those as well. And yeah, there. Piyush is going to share some of his works, sketch works. So once I receive them, the link I will definitely share with you. Piyush, a lot of aspirants are interested to look into your sketches. So if you can share a couple of your work, that would be really helpful. Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to look for it. I don't know where they are. If my sketchbooks are not with me right now because most of my stuff is in Boston. But if I
Right.
don't have it right now, I'll try to send it as soon as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Sure. And once again, thank you so much, Piyush, for joining us for this design quotient industry meet.
Thank you so much, Umesh, and I wish you all the best for your this really generous and important and valuable talk sessions. And I'm sure the participants are learning and growing with the help of your sessions. And I think more and more such sessions should be there in India in the design and architecture community.
Right, right. Thank you so much for the compliments, Piyush. And yes, I'm trying to get into touch with all the architect designers, fashion designers, entrepreneurs that are there in my network. And I'm trying to pull them in for this design coaching industry meet because there's so much the design aspirants and the parents can learn. In fact, I'm learning something new every Sunday by interacting with you guys. Okay, so thank you so much for obliging and coming over for this e-meets, and all the best for you and all the best for all the participants out there who are watching this show. Please do catch up with the previous episodes. All those episodes are posted on YouTube, so please go through them. There's a wealth of information, and as Piyush has said, please try to get information about the profession that you want to get into. So these talks will give you tremendous exposure and information to the profession you're getting into so that you can be prepared. So you have that competitive advantage compared to the peers who are just going into the college without knowing anything. All right. So with this note, I would like to close this session and thank you once again for all of you for making it to this industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.